Five.
Hi guys. Okay, we are so excited. We're just going to be waiting for everyone to come on, but we're really excited for today because we are going to talk to Doug Evans, who I think if you've been following us, we've been talking about sprouting for the last couple of weeks, and we kind of wanted to uh, kind of show you guys the world of sprouts and speak to the man who wrote this book, the Sprout Book, and has pretty much dedicated now his entire energy and
That's a
life.
fascinating
Yes,
background.
and I love the energy and the love that he wants to share to this world of this. I, it's shocking to me. This thing, would you not call this like a miracle vegetable?
It's like our eyes were truly opened.
Right?
Yeah.
And so I prepared this little dish, and this is what, this little crudité. I think this would be an amazing, like, I've never gone to someone's house where they should do a crudité like this. And I would say, let's make it 50% sprouts, Matt. Look at this. And this all came from this tiny machine with a bunch of seeds
Okay,
like
Doug's
this.
requesting, so
Okay.
here we go.
I see you, Doug. I said I accepted the request.
See, do we see Doug?
There he is.
Yay!
There
Hey,
he is.
Doug!
Hey guys, how are you?
How are you?
I'm the best ever. I'm so excited to talk to you.
Oh
So
my
are
gosh!
we.
So we're in our kitchen, and I was just sharing with the with our followers here the beautiful sprout crudité dish that we just made.
It's
And I
amazing.
think this should be served as a crudité dish. I'd never seen sprouts in there, and I thought this is great. Like, let's do it this way.
Yeah, well, you haven't been to my house because that's all you get.
But I learned from you this. So for everyone who's following and watching us today, we want to introduce you guys to Doug Evans, who's the author of this amazing book called The Sprout Book. And he is currently, well, New Yorker, now living in Wonder Valley, which is how far outside of Palm Springs, would you say?
It's about an hour and 15 minutes from Palm Springs, about a half an hour from Joshua Tree.
Okay, and so I understand. I've been really delving into what you do during the day because you have a total routine. So you drink a liter of water and then you go and run. Is that what you do? And then drink
Well,
another liter?
well, I get up, I drink a liter of water. I then meditate for a minimum of 20 minutes, up to an hour in the hot spring. Then I drink more water, and then I go for the run in the desert.
And then you only eat from noon till 6 because you're doing the intermittent. Okay.
Right, small feeding window.
Small feeding window, which comprises of a lot of sprouts. Oops, we just lost that.
Yeah, a lot of sprouts. My diet is sprouts and fruit and some seaweeds, and that's what I eat.
At this point, how much of your diet roughly is sprouts, Doug?
Well, sprouts are more than 50% of my diet. Like, I don't keep an exact journal, but
Yeah.
pretty much like you have to eat broccoli sprouts every day. Like, it's just
Okay.
an obvious thing to do. And I really love the lentil sprouts. I love sunflower sprouts. The best source of getting your medium chain fatty acids are chia seeds and flax seeds that are sprouted, right? So you got to add some sprouted chia, sprouted flax to the diet. And then, just from a level of like hardiness, like
Yeah.
the mung beans, the soybeans, the lentils, the garbanzo beans are
Yeah.
incredibly calorie dense, and
Yeah.
they're filling and they're fiber. So like I do that, but my pleasure, like I'll eat a whole little organic watermelon, organic figs are in season. Like there's just not enough time, and my belly is not big enough to eat as much as I want to eat. Like right now, I was in LA the other day. I picked
Yeah.
up a 40-pound jackfruit, right?
Oh my
And
God.
last night I was carving it, and like I just had to stop myself and say, okay, I'm only going to eat this much right now, because I could have literally just eaten the whole thing. But sprouts, you can't really overeat because they
Yeah.
don't have that level of sweetness that triggers the dopamine and the serotonin pleasure sensors in the brain. So you can't overeat sprouts, but I really love the sprouts. So to answer your question, Matt, at least 50%. Sometimes, like the other day on my little road trip, I ate a pound of pea shoots and 2 avocados, and that was dinner.
But that's, I mean, just to get a sense of the size, that's bigger than your head, right? I mean, it's a large, they don't weigh a lot. There's a
Yeah,
big
that was,
volume there.
yeah, if you watched in my Instagram on my post, what I posted was about only 3 ounces. So I have like, you know, 5 handfuls like that, but I'm able to just eat them. And the pea shoots are really sweet. So they're sweet and they're just overall nutritious. So, and when you're not eating refined sugar, right, you can really taste the subtleties. Exactly.
I just want to reiterate what you said is that it's nutrient dense, but not a lot of calories. Is that correct?
Yeah, I mean, that's the amazing thing about sprouts. And maybe Irene, we should back up for a second, right?
Yeah.
So
We're just so excited to talk to you. We're jumping right into it.
Yeah,
Yes.
well, I'm going to just, you know, show you 1 second. Like this is my little setup, right?
Okay.
So I'm in the desert. I walk out, and we live on an oasis. So we've got the palm. Those are medjool palms. This is a pomegranate tree, and that's a desert willow. And we've got fig trees, and there's mountains, and so this is where I live. And this is like a little 400 square foot cabin. But
amazing.
So when you think about like when I moved to the desert, right? I discovered like, wow, all this beauty, all this nature, like this super dark sky, but it's a food desert.
Yeah.
Literally.
Right?
Yeah.
It's a food desert.
Exactly.
And so like literally I started to sprout the first time 25 years ago. And then for 25 years, sprouts were in my consciousness. They were in my microbiome. They were part of my DNA, but they were dormant. And then I moved here and it was like, wow, I need to sprout. And within a month, like I was growing enough food in 1 cubic foot for all of my vegetables. So I don't buy vegetables in the farmer's market, in the supermarket, especially not salads anymore.
I think, Doug, you're like sprouts. You are information dense with not a lot of calories. So I just want to, because I've heard you say that in multiple interviews, I just want to reiterate that for our people. 1 cubic foot, okay? And you are growing enough to replace all the vegetables that you otherwise would have to drive for an hour and a half to buy if you're not going to the farmer's market or your nearest local Whole Foods or whatever you have access to. Is that right?
Yeah, exactly. And you're getting them fresh, right?
Yes,
and literally it's pennies per serving. And I want to put it out there that sprouts, commercially grown sprouts sold in the supermarket, I give them a thumbs up. Like they're fresh, they're made with proper equipment, they're packaged well, like I would eat them, right? But if you could, instead of spending $3 or $5 a serving, you could use 2 tablespoons of broccoli seeds and get 6 cups of broccoli sprouts, right?
It's insane. It's insane.
Look, you guys got a very well designed house. I don't know if those cabinets do not look like they're from IKEA, but right.
We tricked you.
You tricked me. Okay. So, but if you think about like IKEA, before IKEA, if you were rich, you had custom made furniture, you'd wait months for it. It would come in, maybe right or wrong, but white glove service, it would be beautiful. And most people can't make furniture on their own, so they would go. With IKEA, you go there, what you see is what you get.
That's right.
You buy it, but they ship it flat, and then you've got to get some skin in the game. You got to put it together, but you're getting Swedish design, right? Swedish engineering, and you got to be partners with it.
That's a good analogy. Yeah. I love that.
Yeah, Richard Foreman gave me that analogy. But if you think about that with sprouts, you can go buy sprouts in Airborne or Whole Foods or Rainbow Market or Lifetime and spend $3 to $7 a serving. Or you could buy some seeds, and then with the 6 jars in rotation, you could be having a harvest every single day, and
Super
And
fresh.
That's
like,
exactly right. And it doesn't take a lot of light. That's the other thing. So I think if you're in an apartment in the city, especially a lot of people who live in the city, I think this is such an insane, like, I just want to say before we talk about just the beauty of the details of sprouts, it's mind blowing to me how quickly they grow, how inexpensive they are, how nutrient dense they are,
Affordable.
and how delicious they are. And, I'm going to tell you the honest truth. I never imagined how many different flavor profiles there are. Like you said, I'm going to try the pea shoots on their own because some are sweet, some are really spicy, and so it's just insane. They're all different personalities. And I think people don't see sprouts like that.
yeah. Well,
It's
look,
a wonder.
I mean, what happened is sprouts have been around since
Yeah.
the beginning of time, right? They've
Right.
just been around since the beginning of time. But in nature, the seed, right, sits dormantly. And
Right.
then if an animal eats it or it blows off the tree and then there's a storm and it gets covered,
Yep.
that perfect environment, then germination happens,
That's
right?
right.
And a lot of times the seeds don't make it because the birds, and
They'll
the
eat it.
insects will eat them.
Right.
But if they do grow, one single broccoli seed will grow into mature broccoli and then will flower and then we'll have a pod that will have 600 more seeds. So it's this incredible circle of life that's fulfilling. But if you're a farmer, you could either sell one seed or you could take a big 5-pound chunk of broccoli and sell it for $3 a pound. Like that's what happened. So there was no shortage of land, no shortage of water. So people were selling mature parts.
I love that. Doug, one thing that's so great is I think sometimes when we're speaking, about eating clean and eating vegetables, sometimes it kind of turns people off, whether, coming from where they come from, how they eat. But I love in your book and how you are so inclusive in terms of who you bring in and from all the different angles of people who do eat meat, like Dr. Hyman, who's a functional medicine doctor. All these people, I guess what they have in common is no matter what you're eating, sprouts is an insane, nutritious.
And you're not telling them to change
vegetable.
what they do or take away or limit themselves. You're introducing them to something they can add to what they already do.
Yeah, I'm inviting them to eat the most nutritious food on the planet. And, all I could say, it's hard for me to be critical of what anyone does because I've done the worst, most nefarious things for most of my life, right? So I don't want to be hypocritical, but, at some point I saw the light, right?
Yeah.
And when I saw the light, my aunt got diabetes and I'd never even heard of diabetes. And then I heard, oh, my aunt got diabetes. And then 2 weeks later, I heard they chopped off both of her feet below her ankles. And to me, like I became morbidly obsessed with like, would I kill myself if I had to have a double amputation? Like, how could I survive? Because I was so mobile, right? I wasn't doing anything productive, but I was mobile.
That's
then my aunt had like IBS and colitis and then got stomach cancer and she died. My mother died of stomach cancer. My father died of heart disease. My uncle got heart disease. Like everyone was just dropping like
dying
flies.
around you.
And your brother.
And your brother.
Yeah, my brother, he's still kicking. But, he's had 3 strokes, a heart attack, atrial fibrillation, hypertension, and is diabetic, right? And, so I realized like the thing that all my entire family had in common was they all ate cooked food, processed food, refined food, meat, dairy, and animal products. Like that's what they had in common. And so when I heard, and they say when the student is ready, the teacher will come, like I was ready, and 2 o'clock in the morning, my vegan angel appears and she's telling me, about plant-based, and I'm looking at her like she's got 2 heads. Like,
weren't you like eating a pizza while you're talking to her pretty much?
I think I was just out in the middle of the night looking for trouble. I had a shish kebab in the street before I went in, right? But so then like I went cold cucumber. In the next 2 weeks, I went from eating all the processed food and everything to vegetarian, vegan, and then I stumbled upon raw vegan diet, and it like made so much sense. Like the world is covered with plants. They're bright and colorful. They are the rainbow. I'm attracted to them. And they're mostly water and nutrients. So I was eating basically sprouts that matured into mature vegetables and fruits.
That's right. And so for the viewers who don't know, Doug is also, I find you to be a seeker and a pioneer, honestly. And I mean, it's insane what you created prior to the Sprouts book. And I think people who live in New York are very familiar with Organic Avenue, where you're one of the first to, you are the first to bring the cold pressed juice, and also Juicero, So I think it's insane what you've already put out into the world. But I think in the second part of your chapter of your life, I think, or third, whatever, next chapter right now
background,
is
this computer background, and military background. It's like, I feel that this chapter, though, I mean, just my impression outside looking in, you're at a point where you can bring all of those different backgrounds to bear on this new direction that you're headed with Sprouts.
Yeah, I mean, the fact that I'm grounded and I'm present and I've had these experiences, I've had the eviscerations, I've had the successes, I've had the deaths. Now I can look at it and someone could show me something and I can look at that and say, oh, that's like, you can eat that, and I'm not being arrogant or pompous. I'm saying that's not worthy of my consumption. I have no desire for that. Like, that's not for me. So I have the standards that the only thing I'm going to eat are the highest quality nutrients on a per calorie basis. And that's Sprouts. Like, that's what I choose to eat. Like, I could go eat anything. Like, and people will say to me, Doug, don't you miss this or don't you miss that? And I'm like, no, it's like I made a decision, and my decision is that I want to do things. And look, we didn't even talk about carbon footprint, right? We didn't talk about, animal, humanity, right? And humane living and conscious living. What we're talking about is like, in this ease of living, right? Like I'm living an easy, simple lifestyle, right? We do need to eat. Like I don't fast all the time. Like I like to eat. It's a pleasure. Yeah. I get to eat. I choose to eat Sprouts. And here's my summary of Sprouts, right?
Okay.
Number one, most people think of Sprouts as a garnish if they think of them at all. Right? Yep. Asian cuisine, mung beans, hippie cuisine, alfalfa sprouts, rest of the American culture, they have no idea what those things are. Right? I look at Sprouts as vegetables, and beyond alfalfa sprouts and mung bean sprouts, there's arugula, there's basil, there's lentils, there's all sorts of lentils, there's chia, there's flax, there's garbanzo beans, there's broccoli, radish, clover. There's like literally more different varieties of seeds than you and I can eat in the rest of our lives. Like not even enough. We don't have enough time to eat all these things.
Them all.
So number one, like Sprouts are a label, right? But the reality is broccoli sprouts are little itty bitty broccoli, right? So you've got big broccoli, you got broccoli seeds, and then you've got itty bitty broccoli vegetables. So, so I look at Sprouts as just vegetables, and unlike a normal vegetable, which takes weeks or months or years to grow,
that's right.
You can grow these in days.
But like also, think about how much work it takes to eat this broccoli versus taking a whole handful of these guys and eating them, and then
this is fascinating. Doug, didn't you say in your book that, so here's the equivalent volume Irene has in her hand of mature broccoli and Sprouts. Didn't you say it's between 40 and 50 times more dense in terms of nutrients?
Oh yeah. What happens is as the broccoli grows, the key core nutritional compounds actually get diluted. So if you think about a baby just like a seed, right?
Right.
A broccoli seed has an endosperm, has an embryo, right? Has these core components. Like a baby has eyes, ears, liver, gallbladder, heart, lungs, internal organs. As the baby gets bigger, it's not gaining more organs. It's not multiplying its brain and its eyes and its heart. It's getting more muscle, right? In the plant world, that would be the fiber. So it's growing and it's getting more water content, but the nutrition actually gets diluted. So the smaller it is, the more tender it is, the more bioavailable it is, and therefore that's the optimum part to eat from a nutritional basis.
That makes sense.
That's really, I mean, it's just insane. And I was also listening to this podcast with you on the one we were just talking about, the diabetes one.
Mastering Diabetes with Robbie and Cyrus.
Yeah, and you were talking about, and I never thought of it, but with the sprouts, you could actually liquefy it and make it into a dressing.
Oh, 100%.
And I never thought of that. But what a great way, like you were saying, you're trying to sneak it into your brother. Like you said, your brother probably wouldn't eat this, but you're trying to sneak it in.
He's listening.
Sorry. No, but I was like, oh my God, I never thought of that. Like it could be a dip.
Oh my God.
You could actually dip the sprouts in a sprout dip.
It's the funniest thing. Like, I went to give him some lentil, like French lentil sprouts, my favorite. And he's like, no, stop. I don't want any.
I don't want it.
So my wife took the whole thing of the lentil sprouts and put them with the garbanzo sprouts and added a fresh zucchini and some tahini and made like a hummus that was lentil based, and then handed my brother like some carrots and some celery, and he dipped it and ate the whole thing. And he didn't realize, like, he literally had 10 ounces of sprouts in one serving with his other vegetables and no complaints. So the fact, like, I see the future of the world, like replacing wheat, corn, and soy, with sprouts. And
it's
but
just,
and I would say, and again, I want to show your book to everyone who hasn't seen it, the sprout book. I mean, a good third of the book, you've got recipes. You're talking about what you did with the dip, but there's so many options and elegant ways that
it's insane what you can do. And I think the main thing I want to really communicate is, for us as a product, what we bring to the table is always how to live your life with ease and elegance, no matter what. And I find this blew my mind, honestly. I'm going to tell you the honest to God truth.
When did you turn the corner? Because honestly, I'm the one who usually tinkers and sort of goes out on the edge, and I have a lot of failed experiments. This was a successful experiment where Irene was like, what are you doing? It's another gadget. I hate gadgets and all this. But then now, and you said the same thing in the book and on your various interviews, the kids love it. They will go out. It's almost like a mini garden that matures once a week. And they go out and they just eat it. They just pull from the garden. It's fresh. At what point did you sort of turn the corner on this?
Well, at what point? Well, obviously, first of all, I just want to share, we've been eating a vegan diet at home. And we first started with just eating vegetables.
But it's his approach. It's a fuel approach. It's like it's our choice.
I think
mainly what to put in our body.
And with our, diet change, I find that changing flavor profiles is really important to keep this going. And what blew my mind, because Matt was growing all different types of these sprouts, just like I keep saying, there's so many different flavor profiles. And then I realized, oh my God, because I think we used to be use the sprouts sparingly, because A, they're expensive, and then B, and not so fresh, right? So the fact that we have them at home, and it's such a huge abundance of them, like it's insane how much you get from like one pot of them. And I was like, oh my God, the turning was actually, like you said, seeing them as almost a salad. And now I crave it. So instead of eating a full salad, I'll just do a sprout salad with the other vegetables.
Yeah, you're going to see, I'm telling you, 2021, 2022, 2023, you're going to see restaurants adding sprouts all across their menu because they could grow them on their own. They're fresher, they're supply chain-ish, they don't have to be, they can become more sovereign and more independent. And like when I was doing the book, like I'm a very simple guy. Like I can just eat the sprouts and just eat them. But most people like a social environment, right? So I went to Lita Scheintaub, who did Oprah's recipe book. That's so beautiful. So, and I said, look, I want to do recipes in the book. I want to do 40 recipes. I want them to be all plant-based.
They're all in this book back here, in the back, all these guys here.
Yeah, send me pictures as you make them, Irene.
I will, because we're going to start trying them.
They're so good. I mean, they're all plant-based. They're all raw, and they're about 50% of the ingredients are sprout-based. So
that's insane. And I also like how they're all different flavor profiles. You have some that are like with, certain spices. Like this one is zucchini noodles and sprouts with spicy ginger lime almond dressing. Like, why would you not want to eat that? And why would you not want to serve that? It's insane. And that would be delicious. So I'm really excited about these. I'll send you pictures.
There's even a recipe there from Jean-Georges.
Jean-Georges' carrot and avocado salad.
Yeah, that's a recipe that you'd go pay $25 for in the menu.
That's right. That
you can make for about $2 with detailed instructions. And look, I think so. Number one is sprouts are vegetables. Vegetables are good for you, and every benefit of the whole food plant-based diet can be achieved by eating sprouts. So that's number one. Yep. Number two, sprouts are vitamin, mineral, nutrient rich. So as opposed to taking like a Flintstones chewable multivitamin like I grew up on,
take a bite of this.
Take a bite of that. Grow your own vitamins, right? You go get some blood work done, and the doctor says you're shy on magnesium, you're depleted of magnesium. Eat some kale sprouts, and then go get tested again, and you will be repleted. So the fact that sprouts are so nutritious, you take a normal French lentil, and you sprout that. In 36 hours, you double the antioxidant levels, you triple the vitamin C,
just by adding water.
Just by adding water and adding love and being present and partner with nature. These things are provided for you.
Like
so you can do that. So number two, sprouts are vitamins and minerals, and they contain prebiotics, probiotics, polyphenols, antioxidants. So all the things, like every single essential amino acid to form protein can be found in sprouts. So it's beyond. It's hard to even articulate, right?
It's mind-blowing. I think it's all about changing your mindset to that kind of thinking.
Well, I love Doug's phrase that this comes straight out of the book, and I think this is really inspiring for us, which is to change the mindset from garnishes to the center of the plate.
That's right. That's right. What happens is that everyone's moving so fast. No one is planning, right? So without a plan, it's a plan to fail. So if you plan, right? Like I knew I was going to be in the car, during dinner time. It's 5:30. I'm going in the car. So I just grabbed the sprouts, and that was my meal. That was my plan. You should see, if I go, travel somewhere, I've got a cooler collection. You guys should make a cooler, like an insulated, thick wall cooler, and stuff some recycled denim in for insulation, in the cooler, and make it cool. Like I walk around with an uncool cooler. I'm not stylish, but if you guys made a cooler,
you are.
So I take a cooler wherever I go, and I got my ice packs, I got my stuff in there, and I'm well prepared. If I didn't do that, then I show up and you pull into a gas station, on a highway in anywhere, there's nothing there that I would eat. I don't want the bottles and the bisphenol plastic things. I don't want the hot dog. I don't want the Slurpee. I don't want
beef jerky.
Yeah, I don't want the jerky, and I don't want their almonds that are roasted in canola oil, with there's nothing there. So what happens is, if you get into the sprout mindset and you got sprouts on the countertop, it's a reminder of the abundance of the universe. And what I also recommend to people is eat sprouts first. Whatever you're going to eat, just eat a handful of sprouts.
Yes.
Because it's highly unlikely that you're going to want to eat sprouts after eating ice cream or drinking wine or chocolate cake or whatever. So get the sprouts in first. And
so I have a question for you. I have Matt who loves to tinker with stuff. So I had the fortune of these just kind of appeared. And for those who are like, dude, this sounds amazing. I want to try this. This is just crazy concept. And I want to do this. What is the best way to do this? Because I know that if I were living by myself, that's what I would be thinking. And then I just wouldn't engage because it just seems really complicated.
Yeah. The easiest, best, fastest way to sprout is using a glass jar. Like, no question. And you can use, doesn't even need to be a jar. It could be a recycled bottle. It could be, there's a whole chapter in the book called Junkyard Dog, right? Where I'm just taking anything and using it to sprout. But if you take a jar and then you take cheesecloth and a rubber band and you get some organic sprouting seeds, like you're in business. And what happens is I always tell people, start small, right? Because the smaller you are, you can quickly adjust. You have minimum waste. You get the feedback coming through, and then you get the results. And then once what happens is there is a connection. Those sprouts are alive. And they have energy in them, and they become part of you. They become part of your microbiome, and then they tell the brain, I want more sprouts. The same way, you know, if you eat Pringles potato chips or Lay's potato chips, they're telling you, oh, eat more potato chips. So that's where, you know, if you eat the sprouts, your microbiome shifts, and if you eat them on an empty stomach, you get the bioavailable intake.
You know what? And I think that you hit it on the nail, because as I was telling, when we were talking right before this, we wait in between, you know, sometimes it has, you know, we'll wait like 3 days in between harvest, like we have a harvest.
It's true though, it's like a mini garden.
But I personally start missing them. I'm like, first, I kind of like them around because I like to see them grow, and it's insane how fast they grow to begin with. So they're just so cool to have around. But then I miss them as part of my diet, you know, where I'm like, oh, I miss the sprouts. I can't wait for the next
also what you're saying. Like, I'm the one who's really into gardening. Irene likes it too. But if you're into plants or gardens at all, this is so rewarding because you get like you said, a cycle, a harvest every 3 days.
I mean, it's insane. This is we've been eating off of this for the last 4 days, and look at, we still have this many just from one like little thing.
The funniest thing is when you sprout and you're eating, right? All of a sudden you harvest at 5 o'clock in the afternoon. By 5 o'clock the next day, they regenerate. It's like whatever you eat just grows. So that's one of the powerful. And look, there you go. Wow, that's a beautiful garden variety you got going on in there.
And then this level is just pure broccoli for the sulforaphane. And then the bottom level is the protein ones you talk about with like the chickpea and the pea.
Those are really filling, the protein ones. I really like those.
Oh my God, you guys want to adopt me?
We just love them. And it's all you. You turned us on to this. Honestly, and that's why we want to do this, because even if we could just have 5 more people find this, and then they go tell their friends. It's insane what this, like you said, this is just a crazy thing.
I mean, you've helped us stumble onto a truth, you know, here, and we feel our obligation is just to share. We're not out to change people or be political or anything like that, but we do feel obligated to share our truth.
Well,
you turned us on to something here.
You guys are really, really cool. Like, I just want to say you are like one cool family.
Yeah.
And what I would say is, I'm going to go to the third thing, and this is where, like, I have to be very careful when I say this.
Okay.
Sprouts are medicine.
Yes.
Like, they're medicine.
Yes.
Right? And you're growing the broccoli for the sulforaphane, you know, like, it's sprouts are medicine. Like, if anyone of your followers just Googles broccoli sprouts and cancer, or broccoli sprouts and autism, or broccoli sprouts, and you'll find out that cruciferous vegetables are really healthy, and they happen to have the precursor compound called glucoraphanin, which when you mix it with the enzyme myrosinase forms sulforaphane, which is a it's a reaction of the plant. It's part of like it's the plant's defense mechanism. So if an insect bites it, it becomes bitter and sends the insect away. But those two things, like those two sacs and cells, when they merge, they form this anti-cancer compound sulforaphane, which actually has been proven, to kill cancer cells. Is it a cure for cancer? Is it a cure for autism? No, I can't say that. Will I say that it's a positively tested in its effective treatment of these things? Absolutely. And the more, like, diabetes is a major chronic illness with 35 million Americans having diabetes, 80 million Americans having prediabetes. We have 1/3 of the American population that is obese, right, or overweight. 2/3 are obese or overweight. So this is like not happening to you, right? It's not happening to you. Everyone is sovereign and everyone can make better decisions. And sprouts are something that it's easy to make a better decision and introduce something like healthy, yummy, delicious, pretty, like, this, like, people don't realize what you're doing there in Matt's little tower there is sequestering carbon out of the atmosphere. So you growing sprouts you're releasing oxygen and consuming CO2 to grow those plants, right? So you're improving the air quality in your kitchen, by growing plants, growing green things.
I love that. And the other thing is, I guess the other, in addition to all that, it's truly inexpensive. And you're in the middle of a desert. So actually there are no excuses for anyone if they discover this to say, you know what, I just can't get to get organic vegetables right now.
And even extending what you're saying there, Doug, it's like none of it goes to waste. We use this water to water the other plants.
Yes.
So it's growing. It's crazy all the benefits that come out of this. But I also, I never want to feel like we're preachy or want to just eat them. They're yummy. That's all you got to know. They're yummy and they're great delicious for your body.
It's funny. In America, we would get better attention if we told people sprouts are illegal, no sprouting, there's a moratorium on sprouting, we're doing a sprout lockdown, sprouts aren't available, only in the undermarket, like maybe you have to do something like that. And I look at this as something that they're there, people have problems, like I did a podcast with Marianne Williamson talking about food justice, food equality, right? And like the idea that we are all equal, that we can now, through this little insight that seeds turn into sprouts and sprouts are food, we can balance out the equality. And we also know that some of these, like, brain issues, mental health issues are tied to diet and nutrition. Like, they're just tied to it. So if you have people eating healthier things, they're going to lose weight, they're going to be more productive, they're going to be more social. And, the scientific level of like broccoli sprouts and the sulforaphane for treating autism basically creates heat shock proteins in the brain so that people suffering with autism have less active symptoms of their autism. And so it's like, wow. So why wouldn't every mother who has a child that's autistic or on the spectrum add some broccoli sprouts into their life, right? Anyone who's an overeater, right? They know they're an overeater. Like my brother said, if I wasn't raw vegan, I'd weigh 500 pounds because like I'm like just gorging, but the stuff I'm eating, I end up just having like huge poops, right? But like you can't really overeat sprouts.
I love that, and I think it's just this wonderful message. You've really changed our lives, and I really want to thank you for that because honestly, we brought this into our lives, and it's just something I think we'll keep in our lives, and it's just mind-blowing, and I'm going to try all these recipes.
And I think there's other questions that people, I know I did going into this, it gets bad publicity with the safety. You go into all of these issues and you address them head on in the book.
Yeah.
If for anyone who has that question, you just compare it to the equivalent safety of, say, chicken or beef, and you've got great information in there to address all these questions.
Yeah, I mean, what happens is there are no national sprout companies, right? There are no, right? There's not like a Del Monte or a Dole or Earthbound Farms or Organic Girl or Campbell's and Sprouts. So what happens is if someone says something about the sprouts, what nature says, it's very much like, Buddha sitting under the tree. Like, I don't give a shit what you say. Like, I know I'm true. Like, I know I'm true. And so I looked at it and saying, oh, okay. Someone asked me the other day, my wife is pregnant, can she eat sprouts? And he's a gastroenterologist, medical doctor. And so I called him up and I said, hey, I got this question. And his first response is like, people should know what they should eat on their own. Like, it's not me to tell them. But what I can tell you is that my wife ate broccoli sprouts every day of her pregnancy, and that the first solid food after breast milk that we gave our baby were broccoli sprouts. And I was like, okay, like that's pretty powerful.
Awesome. That's awesome.
So I think what happens is, so much fear and sensationalism, just goes out, and it's very easy to demonize, people for different things. I think that sprouts are safe. I eat sprouts all the time. I would give sprouts to anyone. Oh. And I think also that the food safety standards over the last 20 years have just gone up, and now the seeds that you're buying are tested for pathogens. They're organic. And I will say, use whatever water you can, but the best water you can. So if you have filtered water, use filtered water. You have spring water, use spring water. If you don't have that, use tap water. Like, it's okay. Like, you don't want to stand on ceremony. I tell people, order organic sprouting seeds. They're a little bit more money, but the only seeds you can get, if are from in the bulk bin at your bodega, get them and then rinse them off with hydrogen peroxide or grapefruit seed extract. There's a lot of nuance, and that's why I wrote the book. So the details are in the book. But this is very accessible. This is something that anyone can do. And I got a call from a commander in the U.S. military saying, look, we're sending off tens of thousands of troops to the South Pacific, and, I'm vegan. And I'm like, really? And he's like, and I'm concerned that these young men and women aren't going to get the best nutrition. Can you help, like, think about how we could sprout, how they could be sprouting, in their rucksack and then just add water. And so when I was in the military, like, we were eating meals ready to eat that came in like thick 10 mil garbage bags that probably have a shelf life forever. And so the idea of you adding some seeds and a little like sprouting jar or a bag or something, like, you could sprout anywhere.
So well, you opened my eyes too, because we all know, we've all heard of Captain Cook and scurvy and lemons, but you say in the book that he was a sprouter.
Absolutely, because sprouts actually have more vitamin C than oranges, and he's not able to grow oranges, as he's crossing the Pacific, right? So literally, we are just scratching the surface. The work, like my book, my little sprout book, is now in the 7th printing, right? It's in the top 1% of all books on Amazon. It just was my gift, writing that information and sharing it, and like doing something like this. I'm grateful that we're speaking to new people, because I think sprouts resonate with your brand, right? They resonate with your brand because you're about beauty, you're about ease, you're about design intelligence, right? And this is like nature. The sacred geometry of nature is just amazing. And you guys have permission not just from me, but you have permission, freedom to use your platform to communicate, to make people healthier, because otherwise you're not being filled with integrity as you could be. Like, you have a truth,
and
share the truth.
And thank you for being so open about speaking to us, because, I was like, well, I'll ask Doug. I'm sure he's very busy, but it's just such we just wanted to share this amazing finding.
But also, congratulations to
Yeah.
you, Doug, because I think I heard this is the first significant book by a major publisher ever on the topic. Is that true?
Right. It's a first book published. And it's interesting. I was going to self-publish because I didn't even think that that they would buy the book, right? But then I went to the abundance consciousness. I locked in on my confidence, right? Yeah. I meditated. I got on a plane. I had some recipes made. I brought some sprouts made. I met with one publisher, right? And I show up with the sprouts, with the concept, with a little bit of a proposal. And literally, God bless my publisher, Elizabeth Beyer at St. Martin's. She was literally like eating the sprouts out of the palm of my hand. And she said, we'll do this. And it was one of the hardest things that I've ever done, like writing a book.
I think in addition to the sprouts, what I really admire you, and what I admire about you is your, we always talk about this, because we constantly do stories about this, where having the resilience and having the grit to keep moving forward. And just reading about your past and where you come from and everything that you've engaged in, there's huge wins, there's huge fails, but I think the one thing that I so admire is that you just keep moving forward, and you're so enthusiastic about whatever it is that you're into at that time, and you just want to bring it to the world. And I so admire that, honestly.
Oh, well,
I really do.
Thank you for seeing that. And look, it's easy. And I say it's really easy to beat myself up, feel sorry for myself, and sulk. Like, that's easy, right?
Yeah.
But it's not fun, right? It's not fun. And to me, like, fun is being of service. So the pattern is, being of service. And sometimes I get ahead of my skis and I'm shooting for the moon. And look, I have to tell you, being in the juice world, in 2002 in Organic Avenue, selling organic green juice in a glass bottle for $10 a piece.
$10.
Yeah, people thought with a $2 bottle deposit, because we wanted to reuse the bottle. People wanted to have me dragged into Bellevue at the time. They're like, that's not a business, Doug. Like, no one's going to buy that. Like, you can't scale that. And, I remember when we sold our millionth juice, right? I mean, just think about that and the labor. But to me, it's all about, like, do I believe this to my core? Like, and once you believe in something and that it's good, like, it's really good. Like, I couldn't be selling, I couldn't be selling diesel trucks. Like, I just couldn't do it, right? I'm not going to be, selling timeshares, in the Bahamas. Like, just not interesting to me. Right. And, one of the reasons why I came to the desert is because I really wanted to be grounded. Like, I wanted to be in nature, and I wanted to see the sunrises and the sunsets and the moon rises, and I wanted to breathe the air, and I wanted to feel the harshness of nature and see, how things survive in nature, from the rattlesnakes and the scorpions. And, there was a coyote that, in front of our gate the other day. And like, one part of me wants to give him water. And then the other part is like, no, that guy's badass. Like, he doesn't need me. Like, let the wildlife be wild, and just observing nature, right? Just observing nature, like seeing how the tortoise crosses the road, right? I mean, just the trusting of nature is really, really powerful.
And speaking of that too, do you still do, is it VRBO, or do you welcome people to where you are still? Or
yeah. We're at Wonder Valley Hot Springs. So you can book on our website, or you can go onto Airbnb or VRBO. You know, we have a few, you know, neat little houses that have private hot springs. Like, we're on like a fault line with geothermal activity, with like mineral hot springs that what like that was just a bonus. Like, I was coming to the desert anyway, and the fact that like I came here, and like now this is like, my wife said to me, you know, she's like, look, Doug, we can visit Wonder Valley, we can, you know, do that, but like, I want to live in New York, LA, or San Francisco.
Right.
And then COVID hit. And then like a month into COVID, she's like, oh my God, I love Wonder Valley. Like, this is great. This is great. And, you know, it's really powerful, the desert. But yeah, the one thing I will say is that with COVID, everything is self-check-in. I rarely see people, but the people who come through, it's unbelievable. You know, people come through, like, they're awake, they're conscious, they want to engage. And, you know, so I'm here most of the time, but I'm running my Sprout Lab. I'm running, you know, and I'm researching other things of how to make it easier to give more people access to the highest quality nutrition on the planet.
Did I hear you have Wim Hof tubs too? Wim Hof inspired tubs, or is
we have a cold plunge, and we have a 235-pound per day ice machine. Wow. So we can do total ice, and then we also in the desert, right? And then we have a chiller to chill the water, to do that. But most people do not take advantage of that. Honestly, I do. And if you just even if you let the hot spring water sit overnight, it turns cold, and you can get like a nice cold plunge. And just mastering the body allows you to do it. So you get in and it's cold, and the meditation says, I'm observing sensations that are cold.
I love
observing.
Observing. But we're going to definitely, we need to get out there sometime.
Absolutely.
And I just really cannot thank you enough, honestly. That was just such a cool conversation, and I hope to have more. And I'm going to try some of these recipes, and I'll definitely show them.
For people who want to follow up, the book's on Amazon. I think you mentioned a couple of the vendors. I know I got them from your book. The Sprout Man and the Sprout People were good.
Yeah, and True Leaf and Sprout House and Mums. But what I would say is, if you want the book's available. I launched the book in the worst possible time to launch a book, August 7th, right as like the country shut down.
Oh my God.
So my launch with Jean George out of ABCV in New York, everything canceled, all my Barnes & Noble canceled. And, you know, I was like, okay, like, what can I do, right?
Yeah.
The world changed. What can I do? And so
you have to pivot.
I did it. And, you know, I continue every day. I obsess about sprouts, and I'm learning more information. I learned more information about sprouts since the book came out, right? And that's one of the reasons I'm out, just sharing the gospel.
I'm looking for the second edition.
Oh, well, it'll be something.
Yep.
Well, we follow you every day, and we love your just what you share. And I mean, honestly, thank you. I could not thank you enough for just introducing us to this.
Really changed our lives.
Yeah, to this magical vegetable. It's just magic. So that's all. That's how I can.
Thank you, Doug.
It's truly magic.
Thank you. And how long have you been doing this? When did you guys have your sprout?
Oh my gosh.
I think I'm up to like the second month since I started doing these different things.
Wow. Well, keep it up. Just keep going. And if ever you start to wane, call me up. You have my cell.
Excellent.
Thank you so much, Doug. We're so appreciated.
Okay. Take care, guys. Thank you so much. Bye-bye now.
Thank you so much. Thank you.